John, I'll give you the green light in a second.
Amanda,
Yes.
that bar is still shut. That's okay. We all set to go?
One moment. 2 people are still joining in. Okay, everybody's in. I think we're good to go. Take it away, Mr. Pepe.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is John Pepe. I'm from Holy Family and a member of the CMS support team. And so I welcome you to our training of CMS vendor management and reporting. So the first section we're going to go over is vendor management. Then we're going to do reporting. And Jerry Beltry is here with me. He's also going to share the stage as he's waving to everybody. He's going to share the stage for reporting. So hang on, anything could happen.
That's right.
Okay, so let's get started. This is just to give you a perspective of the training webinars that we've done since July, the left-hand column. We've completed 7 in 5 months, I guess, around 5 months. So we're averaging about 1 every 3 weeks, which is really, really good. These are topics that you said you wanted us to do, that you need some training. What's real important is for you to give us some feedback on how well we're doing. Are we addressing the right topics that you want? And more importantly, are there others that you would like to see us deliver, other training? That's probably the most important. On the right-hand side are the planned training courses, webinars that we have coming up. Sometime in late 2021, we have only 1 more month. Gift cards and vouchers, I believe, is next in December, so save the date on that one. And then the others will roll into 2022. By the way, the ones that we have completed, the videos and handouts are available on the support community website. So if you missed any of the training that we did on that left-hand side and you want to review the videos, and there are handouts as well, you are welcome to go do that by going to the support community website. Okay, so I said we're going to start off with vendor management. So I thought I'd give everyone a history lesson in how we have evolved to where we are today, which is console level vendor management. We started off when CMS was first introduced in 2013. Basically, we had one humongous list for all conferences that include everybody's housing vendors, everybody's utility vendors, clothing, internet, transportation, and others. So we had this one big list. And what was bad about that were a couple things. One is that if you ever wanted to make a change, you wanted to update any of those vendors, or if you wanted to add another one, you had to send me an email. And we were the only ones that was able to make changes to those vendors, either add, change, delete, and it became a maintenance nightmare because we used to get a lot of requests to add vendors that are very, very specific to that conference. Matter of fact, down to the landlord level. So this list got really, really huge, which is a good segue into the second point of why that's a bad thing, is that when the caseworker was selecting the vendor, when they're submitting a check request, they had to scroll through a very, very large list before they were able to select one of those vendors. So there were a lot of bad things about that. Then the idea came up and that we produce a conference level vendor list. And so we tried that out in 2019, but the only thing that was at the conference level in 2019 was just the housing. Everything else was still the global list. And then in 2020 is when we really expanded the conference level philosophy and added all the other categories that we had in global. So that's how we evolved into a conference level kind of model versus a global conference model. Okay, from vendor management standpoint, if you have not implemented your vendors at the console level and you want to do that, what will happen, and we'll go through this later on, we'll do a demo. What happens is that your list gets populated with all the global vendors. That's your starting point. And then you need to go through that list and delete the ones you don't want and add the ones that you do want. We'll be doing some of that. From a treasurer's standpoint, your role is to create and maintain the conference vendors. You have the ability to add or dismiss new vendors entered by the caseworker. As you know, the caseworker, when they submit a check request, you can add a vendor, but that goes to the treasurer basically for approval to either add it to the list or dismiss it. And the treasurer will be notified when a new vendor is created in the message box on the main menu screen. Caseworkers, as you know, you can enter in new vendors, and you can select the vendors from the drop-down list box. Okay. So what we're going to do is go over and do a demo. Okay, so first I'm going to show you, this is a different system, but I wanted to get here because it has been populated with the global list. This is basically what you will see. I'll go through these tabs in a bit when I go over to the production system. But I want to show you the global list that you will see if you've never implemented vendors at the conference level. You will get this humongous list of vendors that are probably, most of them are not relevant to your conference. So you can sort it by category. And what I would do is I would parse out first all of the housing vendors, because you're not going to need those unless some of those are yours, which might be, might not be, but you're going to probably delete all of those. And then you have your utility vendors, and some of these might be extremely relevant to you. I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to show you what the global list looks like. So park that for a while. Now I'm going to go over to the production system, and we'll start from the beginning. So the way you access your vendors, you go to My Conference. Now, two tabs here that if you haven't done conference level vendors before, you now use, these are two new ones to you. One is the vendor list, the vendor tab, and then the other one's the new vendors. We'll talk about new vendors in a bit. Let's just talk about vendors. So the process is that your conference was just automatically populated with all the global vendors. So what do you do from there? Well, what I would do is I would click the delete button. And if you notice these boxes here, I would sort it in category order. Now this is my conference, St. Vincent de Paul. So we've already maintained and populated our vendor file. So you're not going to see anything from housing here. These are all housing conferences. So I did set up a test as vendors, I believe. Yeah, there you go. Test utility. So if you didn't want that one, you would mark it for deletion, and then you would delete it. Right? Pretty simple. If you wanted to add a vendor, pretty simple. Over, and you click add. First thing it's going to ask you for is one of the categories, and you can make it phone and internet. You have to put in a name. You can see that it's starred there. That means it's a required field. Everything else is optional, which I personally don't like, because if you recall, when you're submitting a check request and you enter in a vendor, the street address is required, phone number is not, email is not, the street address is required, the city, zip, and state are all required, but yet when you set up the vendor, they are not required. But my advice to you, of course, is to fill in as much information that you have on that vendor, including the phone number and the email, because you might need to correspond with that vendor. Okay? That's how you would add vendors. And if you wanted to change a vendor, by the way, you can sort these in any order that you want. Like I said, typical CMS, you just click on the column, you sort them in any order. I'm going to go to my test one. I think I have here. That's how it's there. Okay. So I set up this conference and I want to change something. Instead of 2 Main Street, it's supposed to be 55 Main Street. And then all you do is click save. And you've made the change. Okay? So it's that simple as far as setting up your vendors at the conference level. Like I said, the process begins with this tab being totally populated with all your global vendors. And then from there, you just add, change, and delete the ones that you want to keep. Okay, now I'm going to move to this new vendor tab, and then I'm going to show you from a caseworker point of view. This is from a treasurer's point of view. So new vendors, we have one. How did it get there? Well, it got there because when the caseworker was submitting a check request, they could not find this vendor in that list that you just created. So what they did was they added a new vendor. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to add it to this vendor file. That's what happened. You, as the treasurer, have the ability to say either want to dismiss it or you want to either want to dismiss it or you want to add it or you want to add it but you want to edit it as well. So you have that authority to do that. By the way, you see this change interval button? These new
John,
yes.
pause for a second. There's a couple people saying that they can't hear you, but I can hear you fine. I just want to let anyone know, make sure your volume is turned all the way up. They're saying you sound far away, John. So if you could just speak up, John, please.
Yeah, I can hear him fine.
I can hear him fine too.
Okay, well, I'll start yelling now.
Okay.
Well,
That's what you were doing.
That's what I thought I was doing. I've never been accused of being quiet, but that's okay. Okay, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Is it good? Okay, so I think I was here talking about new vendors. New vendors, they get in this list because the caseworker added them when they were submitting a check request. Now, this could be a one-time vendor. In our case, Ackworth, we don't typically serve Ackworth, but we did help this client that had a utility bill in Ackworth. Typically, I would not add this to our vendor list because this would not be a vendor that I would do repeat business with. But in same thing with landlords, you're going to get an awful lot of requests here for landlords to be added to the list. You need to use your judgment. If this is the landlord that you would typically do business with multiple times, then I would add it to the list. If it's somebody that this is a one-off, I wouldn't add it to the list. So you get to make that decision. I was talking about this change interval button here. These vendors that have been added or want to be added to the vendor list will stay out there for as long as you tell them, you tell it to stay out there. In our case, we said 30 days. If you want to change that to a year, you can change it to a year. Want to change it to 10 days, you can change it to 10 days. The point is whatever you change it to, after that period of time, they will be gone. So you can use your judgment. This is down to the conference level. You can set that interval to anything that you want it to be.
Hey, John, can I ask a question?
You can.
If we delete a vendor because let's say it's not exactly correct and it's a one-off, does that impact the ability to see the client case later on?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Because that case was written out there with all that vendor information, that is separate. Yeah, it's not drawn on, looking for that vendor when you call it back up again. The case is already embedded that information. Okay, so let's go to a menu. I am now going to open up one of my cases. Okay, we're going to do a check request, but we're not really going to do a check. We're going to go so far. So let's say that this is for housing. Rent. $300. I want to get to the next screen is what I really want to get to. Okay, so this is the vendor screen. So you see the vendor category. It's no different. You just pull it down. If you did not implement conferences at the conference level, you would see housing. That is the global list. But you see, I don't have anything in the global list. But because you have implemented your vendors at the conference level, now you have this category, housing, but from a conference standpoint. Pull down the list and get all my vendors there, and I would select them because they've been established by the treasurer. Okay? The other way of doing it is obviously, I didn't see it in the list. And I'm the caseworker, so I'm going to add in John Landlord. And you see, this is what I was saying before. This is a required field here, but it's not a required field when you establish it. I think that's wrong. I think it should be required in both places. Gotta set this up only because I want to show you what happens next. Okay, so that's what you would set up. And I think I'm going to cancel this or else my treasurer is going to pay it and I don't want to pay. So, but that's how a caseworker would set up a vendor that is not in the list. You certainly would pick a category, and that could be housing, that could be other, could be phone, internet, whatever. But what happens then is, as I said before, you, the treasurer, would see it in this list right there under new vendors. And you would get a message in your message box. There's one right there. New vendor to review in Holy Family. You would get that message. No, you do not get an email, but you do get a message. So that's how you know there's one out there for you to review. Okay? So that's all there is really to setting up your vendors at the conference level. Before we move into reports, any questions about that?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
So I've used this function in my old conference at St. Jude, and what we found is there were a lot of times that caseworkers will add in the same vendor several times. And the treasurer usually has to go in and see that there are 4 or 5 instances of the same landlord, apartment complex, slightly different name. Maybe one says INC instead of incorporated. And so it creates another instance in it. And sometimes the treasurer needs to go in there and just eliminate the duplicates. So I just make that comment.
Yeah, that is, like I said, first of all, I should have said this at the beginning. If you do not have a treasurer role, you will not even see these tabs. You can't access them. So if you're a caseworker, you'll never even see these. You go over to my conference, you'll never even see these. And I say a treasurer role, that doesn't mean a treasurer. A president could have a treasurer role. A caseworker could have a treasurer role. That's just the way CMS kind of works, where, multiple people could have the single role. So as long as you have a treasurer role, you can add vendors, you can delete vendors, you can change vendors, but if you're a caseworker, you cannot do that. Like I said, when the caseworker actually enters a new vendor, you get notified as a treasurer, and it appears in your list under this tab, new vendors, and then you just take some action. You just go through here and either delete them, add them, and if you want to add them and you want to edit the information because they misspelled something, you can do that as well. But you as a treasurer are responsible for the vendors because it's real important because the caseworker is going to select what you have inputted. You have a question?
Yeah, no, and the good news is, like what was asked before and John answered, any kind of maintenance that you perform on these lists, do not retroactively change any of the case notes. So you're not going to affect what's already been inputted, because all it's doing is it's pulling data out of the vendor database list and populating it into the case record form, and there's no linkage after that.
Right. The one thing that I wish we did do here is have a print function of the vendors.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah, it'd be real nice, but we don't. So don't send me a support ticket saying, how do I print my vendors out? You can't. So that's something that I would put on our list to get done because I think sometimes it's important to have just a physical list that maybe you can pass around to the members of your conference as a PDF.
But a good segue into reports, because I think there is a report in there where you can list out payees.
Yep. Okay, so that's it with vendors. Any other questions before we move on to reports?
I have a quick question. I guess it's just to clarify. So I have, there's one landlord that a lot of caseworkers use, and they seem to call it something different each time. So they have different spellings for Ivy Creek. Some say the Ivy Creek, some spell out apartments, some put APT. So there's a lot of them. And I don't want to eliminate any history, and that, so that you kind of answered that I'm not eliminating any history. But if I put one in there and say, all right, this is it, this is the Ivy Creek apartments for everybody. And then just clarifying, do I put that under housing conference and then tell everybody, this is the one you use for the drop down? I don't know right now if we have housing or housing conference. I don't know if that's been maintained at all. I'm still new, but I don't know if that question makes sense.
Yeah, John, I think there's also Joanne put in the chat, not understand the difference between housing and housing conference. To piggyback on what she just said.
Yeah.
Oh, John,
is muted.
John, we can't hear you. I don't know.
He's
One
muted.
moment. Okay, one moment. Stand by, everyone. We have a technical issue.
Everybody hear us now?
Anybody out there?
Well, yeah, it looks like everybody's muted except me. This is Joanne.
He still sounds far away. It's Martha, but I can hear.
Okay, we went down, we had a systems crash. We're back up now. Okay, so there was a question. Are you still out there? Who asked the question before I answer it?
Everybody's muted.
Everybody's muted.
You can unmute yourself. Just go to your screen, highlight and unmute yourself. We can't unmute you.
I can hear everybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, so somebody was asking a question about a vendor that when caseworkers are entering in a check request, they're each spelling this vendor differently. And is that person still with us?
And if I remember, her question was, she's not sure if she has housing conference or just housing. And the way she could find that out is through the treasurer, right?
Yeah, okay, so I don't know if she's still there, but I'm gonna address the question anyway. Okay, so that's the issue. The issue is that everybody's spelling this vendor differently. And what she wants to do is standardize. So what did she do? So she should go over to the vendor tab, right here, and enter in that vendor. Okay, with the correct spell. Now, she asked which category should she use? Because it is housing, it's a landlord, but it's still housing. Should use housing conference is the category she should use for that. And let's put it in test. Correct. Landlord. Okay, and she fills out all the information screen, she hits submit. That now will appear in the list when the caseworker is submitting a check request and they pull down the vendor for housing conference. That vendor will now appear in the list. So let me try something here. Let's see. Everybody's still with me, hopefully? Housing
Yeah.
conference. Go to test.
Oh,
That's correct, landlord. There it is in the list now. So everybody should be using now that vendor because that vendor now is in the list. Typically, you would not enter in a new vendor unless you didn't find it in the list. It's the only time you would do it. The first thing you should do is check to make sure that see if the vendor is in the list. That should be part of the process. And if the vendor is not in the list, that's when you enter in the new vendor. So they shouldn't be going here if the vendor is in the list. Okay? So hopefully that.
so housing conference looks only at my conference's list of vendors, not everybody else in the council.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly right. But keep in mind, you can set up your utilities all at the conference level. You could set up your phone and the internet at the conference level, not everybody else's. What you want to do is get away from that global list to a conference level vendor master is really what you want. Okay?
Okay.
Any other questions on vendor management? Okay, great. Going to reporting now. I had a slide. Now I don't know if Amanda still has it up. She does. She doesn't have the PowerPoint up. Well, anyway, there was a list of, you have the handouts. I believe Amanda sent you the presentation. What you should have there is a list of all of our, George, you have? There you go. Yeah, okay. You should have a list of all of the reports that are in the system at the conference level. Now, once again, this is role based. Not everybody's going to see all of these. If you are a caseworker, you'll probably only see about 3 of them. If you're a treasurer, you'll see more. So like everything else we do in the system, it's dependent upon what role that you have. But if you looked at the complete list, that's what this is. This is the complete list of all the reports that we have in the system at the conference level. Now, if you go to the next slide, before I get into this, what I thought is important is not just show you, oh, she's gonna do that. Not just show you how these reports work, because that's easy. That's the mechanics. What's important, I think, is that you understand some of the usages of these reports, of how you can use them. So I've made a list here, grant writing. You can look at trends by looking at this report. Food bank reporting, gotten an awful lot of questions about that, where like the Atlanta Food Bank requires a report at the end of a quarter of all the food that they've given this conference. That's only an example, but you have the data available to produce that report. Now, let me be the first to say, you will not find all the data that you want for a specific report in just one report. You might have to stitch together a few of these reports to get the data that you want. So it's not going to be just in one report. It might be multiple reports. Overall case management is another usage. You can look at the caseworker workload. You can look at all your homeless that you assisted. You can read the rest of these. Vendor payment analysis, that's a big one. Maybe you as a treasurer want to know how much have you spent with a certain utility company over a certain period of time. You can do that. That might be valuable information when you're working with that utility company, or a landlord is a good example as well. Maybe you've been working with a landlord for a long time and you want to see the payments that you've made to that specific landlord over the past 6 months. You can do that as well. And you see the rest of them, communication and financial and non-financial analysis and some others. But this is just my list of what I think from what I've heard from conference members. of how they use the reports, why they use the reports. But I'm sure there are many, many more, but that's just the start of it. Okay, so we're gonna go back into the demo. Back into the demo. Okay. Okay, take you over here to the left-hand side to the task pane. You'll see all of these different folders. Now, here is a common mistake, okay? Somebody clicks on, I want conference reports. They click on conference reports and nothing comes up. They go, it doesn't work. It does work. You gotta go click on the arrow.
On the twisty.
On the arrow, right there. That's how you open up that folder, if you will. So don't make the mistake, come over here and try to open up to see all your conference reports that are available. It's the same with all of these, as a matter of fact. You always gotta click on that little arrow, okay? So I'm gonna do a few, Jeremy's gonna do a few as well. Let me start off with assistance by cases, okay? So the first thing I will say about this, the operative word here is assistance, any type of assistance. It is not for clients that you can give any assistance to. So I'm going to just use a couple of examples here that I've created or that I will create. Say you want to see all the homeless clients that you worked with. You have a case status here, closed assistance provided. And certainly there's your conference name over there. I'm gonna skip over because if I put a first name, last name, obviously I'm gonna get only one individual. I could say, show me all the males and all the females. Now, this is important because some of these reports, the date range is for visits and some of it is for requests. So you gotta be very careful and read what the date range is for. This is for the visit date, not the request date. They can be two different things sometimes. I'm gonna put in 01/01/2020 to today's date. So what this is gonna give me is all the homeless clients that I have assisted. Their case is closed, not open, between, within this date range right here. So then you click preview. You wait. And then you get your list and the results. Now, there are 8 of them. If there were more, you would see a box here, and I think I have an example that shows this. We'll say more. Why this is real important? Because, well, I'll wait till I get there. You certainly can download that to a CSV, which I guess I'll do, see what happens. I don't know if we got Excel on this thing. We should. There it is.
I'll click on it. If you click on Excel to the right, over right.
Okay, so there you go. There's your list that you can get, and by the way, it should go all the way across. You can see all the data that comes out in the columns. Okay, so if you wanted to, let's see. Do this, yeah. If you wanted to sum up that, is that the sum up there, Jerry? I can't see.
Yeah.
I can't see. Is that it?
Yeah. Get out of that screen. One that was that you could bring it. formula. Formula, click on auto sum.
There you go.
Click on enter.
And there you go. Okay, so now you know the amount, the total amount of all of those assistance for homeless. And then you can manipulate, massage this data any way that you want. Once you get it into, this is CSV, you can change it, you can save it into an Excel. You can delete columns, you can delete rows, you can do whatever you want to do. That's the point, is that now you got a report, not just a search. You certainly have search capabilities for cases, but a couple of things. You don't get a lot of information on that search. You only get the case number and the case information, but you don't get a lot of information that you can print out or that you can get into an Excel format. You do here. Okay?
So if I can add something, John, so another use of this particular type of report. So many conferences participated when we received funds from the Catholic Foundation of North Georgia. And they required us to report back to them on all of the assistance that we provided with the funds that we gave them, that we then distributed out to 28 conferences. What we asked a lot of conferences to do is use the event code and just put in CFNG for Catholic Foundation of North Georgia. And there you could have plugged in the event code, run the report, and you would have had all of the cases that you provided assistance with the monies that you received, you know, that came from the Catholic Foundation, because we did ask all the conference to send us a spreadsheet back. So that would have been a very easy management tool for you to report back to us. So that could be the case in the future when we give out the money and say, please make sure you put an event code in, because then you can pull detailed reports on the exact assistance that you provided.
Great example. Great example. And as you know, like in just about everything we have in CMS, this basically is search criteria. We call it a user interface wizard form, but it is hard coded. You can't add or delete items to this form. So if you want to narrow down your search, say, just show me close assistance provided within this date range, but all I want to do is see the mails, then click that, and you should get, I think, one. So you can keep drilling down to any level that you want. Okay. Now, the other part of this, as you know, we have searches for cases. We have a search for cases by caseworker. This is the report cases by caseworker. Okay. But before I go there, I want to do one other thing. I want to show you from an open case standpoint. I should have left that date there. Okay, so open cases. These are open cases with assistance. And again, I started off by saying the operative word for this report is assistance. This isn't all your open cases, because you might have open cases out there that you haven't provided assistance to. These are open cases right now that have assistance. Okay, so I just want to make that point. Then we're going to go over to the caseworker. Now, if you looked at open cases and you just wanted to see all of your open cases, sorry, hit a sign. There's all your open cases, not necessarily just the ones that you provide assistance. These are all of your open cases that if you did a search, you get the exact same list that you get here. The difference, once again, is look at all the information that you have that will come out in an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV that you can cut and paste. That's the important part. This gives you a lot more information than your basic search would give you, that you could then manipulate the data any way that you wanted to. Okay? Okay, so that's it with that report. I think we beat that one to death. Let's go on to the assistance report. And once again, the assistance by cases, case workers will be able to access that report. Assistance report, not so. Only treasurers can access that report. So here is the criteria screen of where you can select certain elements of the report that you want to see. So you're given 3 choices. You want to see financial assistance, non-financial, or gift cards. We'll do financial assistance. And we'll do start date of today through, of the 1st through the 17th. I could drill down further and then say, I only want to see, food and groceries or housing or whatever. Then if I select that, then I can do, if I selected, say, like holiday programs, I would get another choice to go down even further. But I'm not, because I want to make a point about something, so I want to go back up. Back to select mode. There it is. Okay, so what we're telling the system is, show me all financial assistance with a date range of the 1st of November to the 30th. And you say run report. I think I keep saying that. Okay, over here is the criteria that you entered in. Okay, and you can say okay, and if you say okay, the system will remember this this report that you put together, so you could run it multiple times. Download it. Let's see. Oh, it came on the first time. Right there. Okay. So once again, if you went to our favorite column, which is the dollar column, go click on one. Get rid of this guy. Should move it down. Okay, so this is Holy Family, by the way. This is live data. So I just put in that I wanted to see all of our financial transactions for the 1st of November to the 17th, to today's 17th. And then now so remember this number, 12,542. I'm going to show you a usage of this report. These are all the clients that make up that amount. So now I'm going to go over to, where's register. So if you were a treasurer, this is what I would do. Okay, so here's your direct expenses, right? Good. Okay, so here's your direct expenses. The MFR tells you, it breaks out by category. So the 12,542.34, that's exactly the same amount as we had here. So you could do a further drill down from your MFR if you want to see all the clients and all of the assistance that makes up that amount. This is the way that you can use that report. Basically, all I wanted to show you on that one. Okay, so let's go back to CMS. Huh? Okay, that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to do clients next. Okay, this report is so you can see a list of clients for certain criteria. The one that's used probably the most often when someone uses this report is that they want to see their red flag clients within the zip codes that they serve. So if you leave all of this blank, you're going to get a list of all red flag clients within all the zip codes that you've entered into your configuration for your system. That's what you'll see. Now, if you want to narrow down, you could say, show me all the red flag clients for 30062. That happens to be one of the zip codes we Holy Family serve. And once again, all you do is hit preview. Now, this is what I was talking about. Of course, you get your list and you can then export it into a CSV, manipulate it. This is what I wanted to show you. So if you're not familiar with this technique, I want to explain to you. So this is the first 20. If I say more, I'm going to get the next 20. If I say more, I'm going to get the next 20. Well, in this case, 19. Or yeah, 41 through 49, next 9. But if I stop here and I didn't say more and then I said download, what's going to happen is when you go download that CSV, you're only going to get 20. You have to go all the way to the very end and click download to see all 49 in the CSV. That's very, very important. Some people stop there and hit download and they said, well, there's more than 20. I know that there are. And the problem is you didn't go to the end of the string here. You got to keep going until you don't see the word more anymore. And then you click download and then you get all 49 in the CSV file. Okay? So that's pretty much clients. But the other important way somebody might use this would be active, and then they want to see their parishioners. That's another good example of usage of this report. And once again, same technique. And this is what I was talking about. If you stop there and you said download, you're only going to see the first 20. You got to keep going until you don't see the word more anymore. So these are all the parishioners in 30062. So I've narrowed down the search there. If I take that off, I say preview, we get all parishioners for all the zip codes that I serve, not just
In Holy Family.
in Holy Family. It's within your conference. So you see 30062, 30068, 30067. I think you get the point. I certainly don't understand why we have date of birth. It beats that out of me why that's that important. Maybe you want to know all your clients that are 65 and over. I don't know. Maybe that would be a usage, but for whatever the reasons, we have date of birth. But that's how you would use the client's report. Okay?
And again, a lot of these reports were generated from requirements at the national level or from other councils. We just happen to be a beneficiary of some of them.
Donation tracking, stay away from. It really is not a report that anybody's using. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time of how this thing, how the data gets populated here. But we just don't use this. This really should be taken off the list. And I would say the same thing about the holiday programs. We don't use this anymore because we have migrated to the new holiday programs, which is there. So those two really should be taken off the list. So I'll just move down here to transaction type is the other one, how you would use this. So transaction type, you might want to see Did you want to see all the payments that you made to a certain vendor? And the vendor is Marietta Power. But I'm not sure if it's PWR or POWDER or somebody misspelled it a different way. Some of you use a wildcard, which you can do anywhere in that field. You could use it before Marietta, you could use it after Marietta, you could use it in between words. It's saying, give me Marietta and everything else that follows there. And I want to see debits, debit or credit, and the type is utilities. Okay, so here's my list, Myriad Power. And here's all the amounts, all the payments I made to Myriad Power in that time frame. And by the way, this doesn't have your 1 through 20, 21 through 40. This is a pure just download. So then you would download these, you would sum these up, and you go to Myriad Power and you'd say, look how much money I'm spending with you. You need to stop charging my clients for disconnecting them and reconnecting them. And it'll say no. So anyway, you can use this list any way that you want. That'd be one way that I would do it. Another way to do it, another use of it is, let's say it's Arbors Housing. One of the complexes we do business with is Arbors and East Cop. They are a housing vendor. And debits. So here's Arbors Cobb. If I wanted to zero in on a certain apartment complex, I can do that as well. One last thing that I'll show you is that you might want to, from a credit standpoint, probably would be very interesting just to see where the majority of the money comes from, obviously, is church and poor box. So you might want to look at all of your receipts over a period of time. There's all your credits and all your deposits that you've made. Okay, so that could be another usage of it. Looking at your deposits. Okay. And now I think I'm about ready to go to the 2 hidden reports that you may or may not know about. Okay, so membership roster, start there. First of all, you need an officer role in order to access membership roster. And I've been asked many times why. Why can't caseworkers access it? A decision was made a long time ago that this information is extremely confidential. And they really didn't want to pass around a list with people's name and address and phone numbers for obvious reasons. So try to keep this as confidential as possible. So the only roles that will even see this button will be the officer level or the leadership within the company. But if you do have that role, you press membership, you will see the membership roster. Now, there's some overflow problems with this report that we have reported. See the blank page, and you see like one name on a single page here. Don't let that bother you too much, but this report is very, very valuable, especially to the conference secretary and to the leadership within conference. The other one.
John, can you speak up a little bit, please?
Hello?
Yeah, John, just speak up a little bit. You're getting relaxed.
I'm what?
Speak up.
Really? Oh, okay. So case distribution report is the other report that you may or may not know about. And I'll tell you about that when this comes up. So if you work with unassigned cases and you have set up your conference where you have case management teams, that when a case intake person enters in the case, they assign it to the case management team. That case management team then would assign it to a case worker. You can get a report of all those unassigned cases, and then from there, assign it to a case worker. And this is all the information that came through case intake, who did the case intake, what they requested, all of their address, their phone number. And so this report typically is used by a case manager that assigns cases out to a case worker. So some people don't even know that that exists, especially our larger conferences that do use the case management team model. This could be a very valuable report because they're the ones that actually assign cases to case workers. Okay. And that's all that I got. I'm going to ask Jerry to go through some of the other reports that he uses quite frequently at the console level.
Okay, thanks, John. And I'm just gonna go through a couple of these reports. And I've used them at the conference level, but I heavily use them at the council level too, especially if I need to report back on overall assistance. So I believe this is one. So for instance, and we're still on Holy Family, right?
Yes.
So if I wanted to take a quick summary understanding of my conference, I could take a look at financial demographic assistance, right? Let's do a preview on this for the month of, and this is for the month of October. So again, what this does is it just talks about all of the assistance we provided in detail, right, by client ID. And here, what you can see is there was 31 assistance provided, right? Again, you can download it. You've seen John download it. You can download it into a CSV, load it into Excel. And if you want, you can then massage the data. You can then categorize it if you wanted to. And so this is an easy way of just being able to pull off, hey, what if I just want food groceries? What if I just want, tell me all the cases for where I've given transportation assistance. So you can do all of that. I actually, when I went out to conferences, because we have a grant from the AGL, from Atlanta Gas Light, Southern Company Gas Wholesaler. And I would go see a conference and say, look, have you been paying natural gas bills? And they said, well, I don't know. I said, well, you can go back to September of 2020. And I would literally bring this report up and I would say, okay, let's take a look at, what is it, September is 09, John?
Yep. Slash
30. Oh, 01, you're right, I'm sorry. 01 / 2021 to today's date. And then I would say resource category utilities and resource type natural gas bill. See if Holy Family did it, right?
We use that quite a bit.
And very quickly, you see there were 16. Let me go back actually a year, because the grant allows you to go all the way back to September of 2020. And now let me preview it. And I would say, look, you had 70 natural gas bills. Now, that at least gives you an indication of potentially how much you can get in reimbursement. So that was some ways of explaining to a conference the opportunity to get some funds back into your conference, and you would have all this information available that you could then utilize to submit to us. So that's kind of a tool. Again, it would be used by the treasurer, who would then kind of estimate, especially if we had a very specific type of a reimbursement grant for you, or if you just wanted to see, what are my utility bills looking like that I've been paying over the year or for a particular month. Let's go back now and let's see. Home. So I also like using the demographic assistance. There's a financial and a non-financial. The financial is obviously the direct assistance that you provide. I'm sorry, I'm backing off. I did that already. I meant to do the summary. So sometimes I just don't want the detail. I just want to see the summary. And I used to use this all the time as a conference president if I wanted to see what was going on as far as how much we've provided for a particular month. So again, I can take a quick look and say, okay, let's look at October. And for the entire month, the type of assistance that we've provided. So now this might show up or it might go back into back. So since it was only 1 month, it actually brought the report up. For me, sometimes if you're going back several months, it might batch it and give it back to you the following day. But for here, it actually brought it up. So it said, hey, look, for the month of October, for Holy Family, you helped 50 unique families. So one thing I really like about this report is it's not how many checks you wrote, it's how many families you served. Unique families, because sometimes you get multiple assistants. And then how many individuals you helped, right? And so it does that summarization within this report, and then it gives you the distribution of the type of assistance that you provided. 24 families gave out $18,459 of basically housing rent assistance, right? One family miscellaneous, I don't know what you did there, John. But temporary lodging. And I used to look at this to see what's going on. How's our temporary lodging? Because you can do a number of different months. You can do a range of 3 months to take a look at a quarter. You can do a full year. You can go back the prior year and compare it to the current year. And you can print these reports. The other thing that I really liked about this too is that I used to use this information very quickly to put together an assistance report that would go into the bulletin. So I can easily say, hey, with your generous donations last month, we were able to help 24 families stay in their house. We were able to help, 7, stay off the street, 7 families. We were able to help 20 families keep their lights on or, their heat on or, be able to cook at home or, with utility assistance here, where it says 20 families, right, that you helped in Holy Family, to the tune of 6,918. So this is from my perspective, this is a great report. The other thing this report does is it also then lets you kind of break things down from a demographic standpoint. And what I mean by that is, let me get out of this. And let me go back to home. Let me go back to, oops, I should bring this back up, right? Let me go back to demographic assistance. Let me say, let me broaden it. Actually, if I do broaden it, it'll probably match the report. But you can put a date range, and then you could say, okay, I can go by gender to see how many we've helped. I can take a look at whether they're a parishioner or not, so I can do a full year report and say, in summary, because sometimes you don't want to have the detail, but you want to understand. And you might even want to communicate to, the pastor, hey, let me just tell you, of the total amount that we've helped, a certain percentage were parishioners, just to give you a state of what's going on in your parish, right? I used this particular field when I was trying to look at trends from a race standpoint. And this became very valuable when we started recognizing in the early onset of COVID that there was a change in the type of assistance that we were providing, where we were greatly increasing the amount of assistance to the Latino community versus the others. So it kind of gave a perspective there. And then, and like I said, I mean, there's different ways that you can select out which is very helpful to give you a view of trends of what's going on. And again, you know, this goes back, I think this goes back 2 years. I think you can, so you can actually run, you know, 12 months prior to, you know, 12 months prior from there and do a year-to-year kind of comparison on what's going on. And where all you really want is the summary information. You don't want to get down into the weeds. You want to have kind of a high-level view of what's going on from an assistant standpoint in the conference. Things like if you're seeing temporary lodging increasing, it'll definitely show you there. And you can easily then communicate what you're doing and how you're providing assistance and who you're providing assistance to, again, at a summary level. So I've always found this report to be pretty valuable from, from a leadership standpoint, just to see what's going on in the conference and to communicate that out to the conference members as well as donors, as well as just general parishioners. So, John, I don't know if there's any other reports that we need to cover, but I think, well, the only other one is under
Jerry.
clauses. Yeah.
Somebody did ask in the chat about they have a lot of open cases, and how can you identify which caseworkers have those open cases? There's a way, if you remember, that we did that.
So there's dashboard and there's conference casework. And so you can click on conference casework, which says here are cases open by caseworker.
Yes, thank you.
A point of view. So
Yeah, so then you're not.
with all those open cases.
Yeah.
John. So,
Yes, they must be closed before your reports are finalized, your monthly reports.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess what it is saying is these are open cases and then these are the closed cases associated with the open cases. So if you saw something like if Phil Mooney has 10 open cases and only 1 closed, that says he's got 9 open cases.
Yes, and then.
Do you want to see, I assume you want to see a list of all your open cases, right?
Which is what you brought up by assistance by case.
Exactly. If you want to see all of your open cases, I would go to cases by caseworker. This is only going to be the ones that you've assisted. I would go to cases by caseworker. And I would put in open just like that, put in your date range, and then you get a listing of all your open cases. And all the detail information, obviously, if you go across, you'll see all the detail information.
So there are 22 open cases for Holy Family.
Well, there's not really 22 because you see that same case number. Those are the assistants.
Oh, I got you. By assistants.
Yeah, so, but if you just wanted to see just open cases, I mean, the simple way of doing it would be to go to search, go to cases by caseworker, hit open, hit search. Those are all the open cases in the Holy Family right now, and if you want to see by caseworker, you got it right there. So, but that isn't going to give you a report. That's just going to give you a view of all your open cases that you have. And again, you sort it by caseworker. And if you wanted the report, you do what I said before. You go to the assistance report. Go to the by case report.
Cases by caseworker.
Cases by caseworker. And then you put in open and you're going to get them, but what the difference is going to be, where before you only had 1 case, now you got 3 line items here. These are 3 assistants for that 1 case.
Right.
So you're going to see all the assistants. Like I said, with this report, the operative word is assistant. That's what it likes to show you.
Yeah.
Okay?
But
Thank you.
you can download this report, right?
Of course.
So you can download this report. If you download the report, then you have a spreadsheet where if you want, you can then, you know, segment it by case number.
Sure.
Right?
Sure, you get rid of the duplicates.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you. And can you also clarify or verify that the only numbers that are counted in the reports are for closed cases only?
what reports are you talking about?
Well, I guess actually, Anne Marie, some of those reports you select if you're looking at a closed or open or closed with assistance provided. So you just have to select their criteria.
Yeah.
We have a lot of open cases, and I'm wondering how that's going to affect our statistics on any of these things. You know, if it's not closed, is it even part of your, you know, if you're searching how many parishioners are there and it happens to be that all the parishioners are open cases, would they even show up? I mean, just,
But a check was written for them. Assistance was provided. Is what you're saying. We left
yes,
it open. We didn't close the case, but we did provide assistance.
yes.
So,
So on a monthly,
so let me understand, what is it that you want to see? You want to see all open cases regardless of whether they had assistance or not assistance?
Well, I've already run that. I know how many open cases we have, and it's an embarrassing amount. And I'm wondering how that is going to affect all of our stats. I feel like they're going to be really swayed. Or does that not affect any of the stats that you run?
That's an easy answer. It's going to affect your stats. It's going
It
to
is
affect
or it isn't?
it's going to affect your year-end annual report for sure. By the time you get to the annual report time, I assume you're past 2021, you're into 2022 now, right? A fiscal year 2022.
Correct.
Okay, so if they were open in fiscal year 2021, they were not reported on your annual report. I can tell you that 100%. The annual report only looks at closed cases. So my advice to you going into 2022, you close those cases and then obviously your report will be right. Now also affects your monthly financial report. Because if you go to your monthly financial report, you have number of visits and number of people helped. The number of people helped number is derived from closed cases. So those facts are going to be off if you don't close your cases.
what about this report, John? I think this just takes it if a check is written.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good example. The other one is the financial assistance report that I showed you, that it was 12,500 and something. Well, and that bounced back to your MFR. That looks at all assistance regardless of open or closed cases. It adds it all up together. So in that case, it does look at open cases as well as closed cases. But from a fact standpoint, I highly encourage you to close those cases in 2022.
Absolutely. But on something like this, which is a demographic report, a summary report, where we went back several months and said, you know, how many times have we written checks? This is the amount of money that's been written, regardless of whether it's open or closed. I mean, it's still good hygiene to close the cases. But on this type of report, it's the checks being written, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
There's a
Now,
couple other
let's-
questions. Did you want them now?
Okay, in the meantime, let me bring up the last report. So sometimes you guys want to take a look at just in general, what's going on. This is why it's so important for the caseworkers to go in and click the right boxes, right? I mean, we implemented when COVID started, we implemented an underlying cause, COVID-19. And that was very important, especially if you guys in the conferences were getting some funds that were associated with people impacted by COVID-19 For this, it's very important to understand that here's how many people we helped. And this helped us, like John said, sometimes with grant writing. Sometimes the local municipality wants to know, well, how many people have you helped that had this type of condition? You know, sometimes you want to understand is the underlying issue, the underlying excuse me, issue, is it because people have limited job opportunities? Or is it because of how many people are we helping that got affected by domestic violence? This is very important. I'll be honest with you, it's very important at the council level, because we kind of sometimes want to take a look across all the conferences and see trends on the folks that we're helping, and how many are because they either don't have a job or the job that they have does not give them a living wage. Plus, we've used it heavily going after grants. You know, COVID, there's ARPA grants now where we can say, hey, look, here's the type of volumes of assistance that we provided to those people that were affected by COVID-19. We've been in the area, we've been helping the people, and you know, your funds to us will continue to help those types of folks. So again, this is a nice to have, admittedly at the conference level, but sometimes you want to take a look and see, hey, how many people we help in that are single parent families, you know, and it might formulate a special works that you want to create down the road within your conference. So anyway,
We got 9 chats. What else, Amanda?
yeah.
Okay, this one is in regards to EFSP. She said, since my conference does not issue the check, the assistance will not appear. How can I obtain information on EFSP/CARES cases that they submit but do not pay?
In kind.
Yeah, it's in kind. But where would you see it?
In demographic assistance, non-financial.
I don't know. Go there. Resource category and resource type. EFSP,
EFSP,
resource type. Yeah.
food, housing, you can leave that optional,
Do you
and
see
you can
it?
say, do you do EFSP in Holy Family?
No.
No. So that's the report where you can pull all of your funds, where you didn't write the check, but the council provided the check. But this will give you a list of all of the cases. Did that answer the question?
I think so. Wonder Woman who asked the question, let them know if not. Okay, yes, yes, she said good. Yeah, the only other one was just more on role permissions. Can you just verify that as president role can see all reports, including the check register and the past annual reports?
Verify that the president's role can be what?
Can see the check register and the past annual reports.
No, well, you need a treasurer's role, even though you're a president, to see the check register. So you have
Okay.
you have to sign yourself as the treasurer.
So you can have 2 roles in CMS, Joanne.
You got multiple roles.
Multiple roles, right?
Multiple
I think
roles.
that's it. If anybody would like to come off of mute, we have about 5 minutes left. Feel free to ask John or Jerry. Anything else? Nothing?
Questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Like I said at the beginning, the only way we can make these sessions, these webinars better is with your input. So feel free to tell us what you like, what you don't like. And like I said before, more importantly, what do you need? What type of training do you need that you desire? We put these together based upon some feedback that we received informally, but it'd be nice to hear back from you because we absolutely want to make these worth your time. So once,
John, can you hear me? John, can you
Kay,
hear
I
me?
don't, hey, I don't think they can. I don't know. It looks like his system crashed down again.
Okay, you can relate my message. My computer was acting up. I couldn't see even half of this program.
Okay,
So
okay.
if we
We
could
will be,
do,
yes, it was recorded. We'll be sending it out shortly. And
Okay.
we will also send out a short evaluation that you guys can provide your feedback with. All right.
Okay.
It doesn't look like they're gonna get their main system back up, but thank you, everybody, for
Hey,
attending.
Amanda, real
Yes,
quick,
ma'am.
it's Heidi. Is there,
Go
I
ahead.
have not done a deep dive into the videos they've done. Is there like a CMS 101 for new caseworkers, like a training session for them?
Yes, we do have a beginner's recording video out there.
Okay, great. I will look that
Um,
up. Thank
Okay,
you.
Heidi, I'll send you the link. Thank you,
All right,
everyone.
thanks,
Have a good
Amanda.
afternoon. Okay, bye-bye.